easy way to learn English. Hello, and welcome to another session at Easy English Stories home channel. In this session, we will cover the topic, Easy Way to Learn English. I'm beyond thrilled to be here with you. Whether you're tuning in from your morning commute, relaxing at home, or just taking a moment to enrich yourself, I want to thank you for joining me on this journey to make English learning easier, more fun, and more accessible than ever before. On this session, we believe that learning English doesn't have to be a daunting task. Whether you're just starting out or you've been learning for years and want to take your skills to the next level, I promise that by the end of this session, you'll feel more confident and prepared to approach English in a new way. Now, before we dive into today's session, let me give you a quick overview of what this session is all about. Here, we discuss practical strategies, real-life tips, and expert advice to help you master the English language. It's not about perfection, it's about progress. We focus on step-by-step approaches, break down common challenges, and, most importantly, give you a friendly, relaxed environment to practice and improve. You'll hear me share stories, give examples, and walk you through techniques you can start using today. In today's session, we'll explore the easiest ways to learn and master English. That's right. Easy. A word that seems almost impossible when paired with the idea of learning a language, right? But I assure you, it's completely possible. I'll share concrete examples, a few personal anecdotes, and practical steps you can implement immediately to start mastering the language without the stress and overwhelm. Now, let's dive into today's topic. Picture this. You've just signed up for an English course. You're excited, motivated, and ready to dive in head first. But soon after, the excitement starts to fade as you realize that learning a language is not just about memorizing vocabulary or studying grammar rules. It's about immersion, practice, and constant exposure. And while this may sound overwhelming, I'm here to tell you that there's a better way. A way that doesn't involve endless hours of repetition or cramming. Let me tell you about my friend, Sarah. Sarah moved to a new country and didn't speak a word of English. She struggled for months trying to understand conversations around her, and each time she tried to speak, she felt like she was hitting a wall. The traditional methods, flashcards, grammar books, and exercises just didn't seem to work for her. She felt lost, stuck, and frustrated. But then she discovered something. She found that by surrounding herself with English in small, manageable doses, she could start to piece the language together. She didn't spend hours sitting down to study. Instead, she started by watching her favorite TV shows with English subtitles, listening to podcasts in English, much like the one you're listening to now, and even following English-speaking social media influencers. This gave her exposure to the language in a way that felt natural and fun. And guess what? Within a few months, she was having full conversations in English. Yes, full conversations. Now I know what you might be thinking. That sounds too good to be true. Or, Sarah must have had a natural talent for languages. But I assure you, The secret isn't in being naturally talented. It's in finding ways to practice that don't feel like a chore. This is where the magic happens. Let's break it down with some real examples. Say you want to improve your vocabulary. Instead of making long lists of words to memorize, which can be overwhelming, try focusing on just 10 words a week. But here's the trick. Use these words in sentences out loud as much as possible throughout the day. Research shows that by using a word actively, you increase your chances of remembering it by up to 80%. Now imagine that, 80%. That's a huge difference from simply staring at a list of words, right? Another great method is setting small, achievable goals. Let's say you're practicing listening skills. Don't aim to understand every single word of a movie or a podcast right away. Instead, focus on getting the general idea. Studies show that understanding the context of a conversation is often more important than understanding every word. In fact, if you understand just 50% of a conversation, you're already on the path to fluency. Now let's talk about creating the right environment for learning. I'm not talking about setting up a classroom in your living room. I'm talking about surrounding yourself with English in a way that feels natural. Here's an example. When I was learning a new language, I made a habit of changing my phone's language settings to the language I was learning. That way, I was constantly exposed to it in small, everyday moments. It forced me to recognize new words, even if I didn't realize I was learning. Another thing that worked wonders was setting aside just 10 minutes a day to practice English. You'd be surprised by how much you can improve by committing just 10 minutes. Whether it's practicing pronunciation, listening to a podcast, or reading a short article, the consistency is what matters most. And over time, those 10 minutes add up to real progress. Let's get a bit more strategic now. One thing I recommend is immersing yourself in English media. This means reading news articles, books, or blogs written in English, or listening to English music and podcasts. A study conducted by language experts found that people who immerse themselves in media that uses their target language improve faster, up to 60% faster in some cases, than those who rely solely on traditional studying methods. Take TV shows, for example. If you're learning English, watch shows that are both engaging and educational. Some of the best include ones with simple dialogue, like sitcoms or dramas, where the characters often use everyday language. Shows like The Office is great choices. The conversations are casual, and you'll pick up idiomatic expressions, everyday phrases, and cultural references along the way. I remember when I first started learning English seriously, I felt overwhelmed, like I had to master everything at once. But I quickly learned that's not how languages work. They're living, breathing things, and mastering a language takes time. But I found that by setting small daily goals, I could chip away at my insecurities and build my confidence bit by bit. One of the most effective techniques I used was speaking to myself in English. Yes, it might sound strange, but it worked. I would narrate what I was doing throughout the day. I'm making coffee. I'm getting ready for work. And by doing this, I built the habit of thinking in English, which is a critical step toward fluency. So what's the takeaway from today's session? Learning English, or any language, doesn't have to be hard or stressful. By making small, manageable changes in your everyday life, you can make significant progress without feeling overwhelmed. Whether it's changing the language settings on your phone, dedicating 10 minutes a day to practice, or using media like TV shows and podcasts to immerse yourself, these strategies will help you master English in no time. Remember, learning a language is a journey, not a race. It's about enjoying the process, celebrating small victories, and continuously challenging yourself to grow. And I promise, if you stay consistent and follow the tips I shared today, you'll find yourself mastering English much sooner than you think. Thank you so much for joining me on today's session of Easy Way to Learn English. I hope you found these tips helpful and encouraging. If you enjoyed this session, please support us by subscribing, sharing it with your friends, or leaving a review. Your support means the world and helps others discover the session. Until next time, keep practicing, stay confident, and remember, progress is always better than perfection.